Yes, West Ham United have won a football match. Who would have thought it? Welcome back to West Ham. Official, I hope you are all well. It's the Premier League Roundup show back on a Sunday night, rounding up all of the Premier League's action. I'm joined by Shaun this week. Shaun, how are you?
Good evening. I'm not too bad, mate. Not bad. Quiet weekend. Not too bad for January.
Good stuff. Good stuff. It's been a bit of an up and down weekend in terms of football. There's been a few 0-0s in there, a few exciting games. So there is plenty to talk about. Hello to everybody watching in the chat, along with the bowling. Hope you are well, and everybody else in there as well. The place to start then is up at Anfield. It's the first goalless draw of the weekend. Liverpool 0, Chelsea 0. Shaun.
Yeah. To be honest, it's a game where I was driving across the beautiful county of Somerset to cross-country championship. So I didn't have the pleasure of watching it, but I did. Apparently, Chelsea were the better side. Is that right? For me to say it looked quite good at Anfield, especially the first. Sort of got pulled over. I think a couple of their new signings managed to get on the pitch. I don't think anyone started, but
no.
I think we just cover it every week. This is two of the bigger sides where it just hasn't, for whatever reason, gone right this year. So you sort of. I know Chelsea are chucking everything at it, but with Liverpool, I know gap curve. But I think with Liverpool, you kind of sense they've just taken the hit. Do you know what I mean? They're probably not going to get in the top four. I think they've almost taken that as a club on the chin. Do you know what I mean? I see it anyway. So yeah, a draw probably hasn't shocked anyone at all in this one. I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, it's sort of the two sides that people have branded as a mid-table clash. You know, it was a pretty dull game, to be honest, and the commentators were wheeling out the injuries excuse for both sides. And yeah, Chelsea are chucking anything they can at the moment, and Liverpool, they seem to have injuries. There's a few of their key players back on the bench, but do you think those sides are going to pick back up again, or?
I expect the results will improve for them both. It's just whether one of them can sneak in the top four. Is it the be all and end all with finishing the top four? It always has been for most clubs, but then sometimes the club might look at the bigger picture. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a strange one. It's like I'm sure we'll come on the West Ham. I don't know if it was on one of your videos or on your Twitter. I said that last week. If West Ham stay up this year, for example, because I know you've got this Europa Conference to go through. Imagine if next season you need a rebuild and then you've got Europe to play again. Yeah. That could be disastrous. Do you know what I mean? You could stay at this year, win that, which would be, lifted a trophy, no matter how much you rate the trophy. But you don't want to be having another year in Europe where your best player in the last 25 years is possibly sold.
Yeah.
Possibly a new manager. Do you know what I mean? So it's tricky. So then we'll go back to Liverpool and Chelsea. I don't know, sometimes, a bit like Arsenal, I think they had a year, it was last year when no one's seen this coming, but they had no Europe at all. So they had a chance to, I know they failed at the end to get top, but they had that season just to concentrate on one thing, and that's building the future. And it looks like it's paying off. So it's tricky.
Yeah. It's tricky. Yeah. Yeah, and when teams are trying to go through rebuilds and those sort of things, maybe Europe's just a thing that gets into the way. Let's see who else we've got. Gary, hope you well, mate. Evening with Josh. Josh is unavailable tonight. I'm sure we'll get him back next week because I want his opinion on Danny Ings, but yeah, we'll get him back next week. Your voice has gone deep. No, I've just got a really bad cold and the voice has suffered. Well, at least that's what I think it is. But yeah. We will come on to West Ham a little bit later on, so I've pinned your comments, so those will be read out a little bit later on. But next up, a Matoma screamer is all I can really think when I see this game. Leicester 2, Brighton 2, Shaun.
Yeah, I just got home for listen to half of these games on the radio, which you don't tend to do very often. That's always a throwback when I listen to games like Saturday afternoons on the radio, and then I managed to get back about half an hour gone. Some strange sort of mid-table games or bottom half games on the Saturday afternoon, watching them. In general, I don't think anyone massively bet on a Europe one, and we'll come on to in a minute the other ones, but it just looked like a lot of sort of games were huffing and puffing a little bit. Like I know Leicester were beating Brighton, weren't they? I know they went 2-1 up, but I don't know. I looked at the games and I think, do you know you get results where you think both teams are probably happy with that? A lot of the results sort of jumped out at that over the weekend. I'm probably going to repeat myself for a lot of this, but yeah, Leicester a point. I know they're not away from it with points, but I don't really see them getting sucked lower really. And Brighton, I think Brighton are up. They're up there. I think if they'd have won, they'd gone above Spurs. But I think probably we expect them to finish 7th, 8th, 9th, don't we? So it's almost typical Brighton. They go on a really good run, then they just hit the buffers, and then they'll just sort of level out. So a 2-2 didn't shock. I know I said it for the last game, and I might get boring, but it didn't shock me at all that it was a draw.
Yeah, I think it's okay for both sides. Brighton, it's another point away from home. Leicester struggling at the moment to get a point against a Brighton side that have beat many sides. I think that's good. So I think both sides, they won't be over the moon about it, but they'll take it. I think moving on to one of the relegation scrap games, and that was down on the south coast. Bournemouth won, Forest won. Bournemouth looked like they were going to get their first win in what felt like forever, and then a former Bournemouth player scored for Nottingham Forest to level things out right near the end. It's another game where Bournemouth have failed to win. Shaun?
Yeah, I think Forest had a goal disallowed in the first half as well, didn't they? I think he was offside, but I think Bournemouth, probably just because of the quality of their players, I think when they concede, to be honest, I haven't seen the Forest goal, but when they concede, it's usually really terrible defending. And I don't know, when did Bournemouth last win? I know Gary O'Neill's, I keep reading he's under pressure.
They've gone on a long road of not winning, so yeah, I'm not sure where they lost one.
I know they're favourites to finish bottom now, and I think we say every week, like, you look at the bottom half of the table, it's hard to pick three. I think most people that would probably all come up with Bournemouth, to be honest. Yeah, I suppose home to Forest, that's a game where
you need to win, really, don't you?
Like they always say, like the teams down the bottom, when the fixtures come out, you pinpoint, I don't know, 10 games where you think we could win that, we got to win that, we got to win that, and that went in one of them. I don't think Forest are a bad side, but they're better at home. Yeah, I don't want to condemn a team just yet, but if you're going to condemn one, we're at the halfway stage now, aren't we? For every team, and I keep thinking it's 3 from 6. I still think it's 3 from 6. And if we're going to give Bournemouth one of them spots, then we're left with 2 more, aren't we? So let's all agree Bournemouth are down, shall we?
I think from the sort of Bournemouth perspective, especially being 1-0 up, they'll be gutted they didn't get the 3 points on the board, and they do look like they're sleepwalking their way to the Championship, and that's a game, you're right, they would have pinpointed and went, we need to win that game. So yeah, it'll be disappointment for them down at Dean Court for sure. But let's take some of your comments and see who else we've got in the chat. They were awful. Everton certainly were. Dawson's going to talk about that a little bit later on. Lawrence, hope you are well, mate. Real shame about Dawson leaving. It certainly was. Everybody saying hello to each other in the chat. Terry, hope you well, mate. Bournemouth, Everton, and I think you can now put Everton into that category, but they are not looking good. I tell you what, that's the worst side I've seen come to London Stadium in a long time, because it really was the battle of who could be worse, and that's what we'll talk about next. West Ham 2, Everton 0. No, we weren't vintage at all. I didn't think we were great whatsoever. We sort of did what we do. At the start we were okay for 5 minutes, and then we just gave them the ball for about 10, 15 minutes and said, there you go, crack on. And they were pretty content just knocking it round, and then we get a couple of goals, a couple of good bits of quality, which hopefully should give Antonio and Bowen a bit of confidence in there. But yeah, good for Bowen to get 2 goals. Everton were just awful, really, really poor. Second half, we sort of sat back. Moyes barely ever makes substitutions. He saw we were winning, licked his lips, and made 5 subs for a change, and they were all pretty defensive, which just made us sit back. And they had a couple of chances. Calvert-Lewin had one that he was trying to dive to try and get something onto, but then again we had some as well. That Rice chance that just went across the goal line. Emerson had one as well. So both teams had their chances in the second half. It was just disappointing where we didn't go out and put a statement out and go and knock another few past, and we sat back and invited some pressure. Luckily, Everton were crap enough to not capitalise on any of it, and we ended up getting the 2-0 win. Shaun?
Thing is with Everton, why I won't condemn them yet, because I think they're sure to probably pull the trigger on Lampard. and then
Yeah.
you just don't. I said to you about West Ham for about a month. Who's coming in if you get rid of Moyes? And none of you could give me an answer where I thought, yeah. Do you know what I mean? And Everton are probably looking in exactly the same places as what West Ham are. So same goes with them. Their owner went for Benitez not long ago. So that shows you, and then Lampard. Do you know what I mean? So that shows you their track record at giving a point was not very good. But on paper, I don't think they've got a bad squad. They didn't. They come to the Tottenham Stadium last year, and I didn't think they had a bad squad then. And I've never seen a team place it open and we beat them 5-0. So I said then, I think they look like a team with no plan and they'll go down. Somehow Calvert-Lewin stayed fit and rescued them with about 2 games to go in that. Yeah. They haven't really kicked on this year. West Ham, I think West Ham fans are in that position now because I know fans of teams all up and down the league, but West Ham fans, majority are in negative mode now in their mind. They are. So when the team sheet come out before kickoff, I've seen a few of your videos you posted. Back 5, negative team. It's going to be a negative lineup more than likely, which drags you up the table. It's just a matter of if the negative style is enough to get you up. If that makes sense. Yeah. Because if you stay like, I guarantee you there won't be a lot of people thinking about next season at the club, how they can play nicer football and progress. At the moment, you're in survival mode. If you can grind out 2-3 wins by playing the right back 5, some back 5s can be shocking and you're camped. But if it's the right back 5, but then you went with a bit more of a progressive midfield 2, playing Paqueta next to Rice, didn't you?
So that's much better, yeah.
So it's what he's doing. I know you think everyone says he's stubborn, he sort of favours. I don't think it's that. He's just slowly tweaking it. And at some point he'll tweak it, and you just got to hope it sticks. Like now, if that back 5 didn't look like conceding, the midfield centre midfield looked right, in an ideal world, you stick with that for the next couple of games now. You know what I mean? It might, you probably not, you said that Everton are shocking, you probably won't play a team as bad as them, but he's got to find, if he gets a little answer, you see a little sign. I think he managed to start Ben Rama and Bowen the same side as well, did he? Am I right saying? So yeah, so you went for more of a negative back 5, but then through the middle, you look probably on paper a bit more attacking. So,
I think there's a few lessons that Moyes should have learnt there yesterday. Is that he went out? Yes, it was back 5 on paper, but I thought we did set up a little bit more attack minded because people said 5 at the back. We haven't got any wing backs, which is fair enough. We've got Emerson that's more suited to a wing back, and I thought he played well. The right hand side's an issue, we know that, but Soufal played well in the wing-back position. He's not going to do that every time, but I thought he played well there. And not starting Souček, and as you said, Shaun, playing a more progressive midfield 2 helped us out massively because we weren't playing with 10 men with Souček dawdling around doing nothing. So in that sense, it was a lot better, and hopefully Moyes has learnt his lesson there to not play Creswell because we'll just get exposed on the left-hand side, and not play Souček to actually get value out of a 2-man midfield. So hopefully he's learnt that, and hopefully we've got some confidence in those players there. We've got 3 quite difficult games coming up now where we've got to try and prove ourselves: Newcastle, Chelsea and your lot, along with Derby and that, and then the big crunch game is Forest at home after those 4. So that'll be the real test. I think if we come out of those 3 games, Chelsea, Newcastle and Spurs, with nothing, then I'm not sure what the board will do, but we've just got to take it as we can. Now let's take some of your comments. However, firstly, Lawrence, thank you very much for the $10 super sticker. Thank you very much indeed. That means a lot. Let's take some more of your comments, and I'm going to scroll up because there was one up here. Long Live the Bolin says, I want Moyes to succeed, but he has to be more adventurous. I don't want our fan base turning into Arsenal or Spurs fans, only happy when we're winning, but he has to start taking the game to teams. He does, but I do think the way he did it yesterday, you can't complain that in the end he did get it right because we won. Now you can only play the game, you can only play the team you've got in front of you. Yes, if we had a more clinical and a better team in front of us, and they probably would have scored 1 or 2, but that's the only thing we can do with what's in front of us. Terry says, under the circumstances, we were okay, nervy from both sides, but this is just maybe the catalyst to push on. Let's hope so. Long at the bowling. Listening to Scousers whinge on the way home put a pleasant smile to my face. I bet it did. Gary says they were shocking and still could have scored against us. Yeah, I agree. Terry says Sufal has been solid all season. One of the maybe only 3 players who you could argue have earned their coin this season. Yeah, he has, but I think in there just a back 5 isn't suited to him. Don't get me wrong, I thought he played really well yesterday, but a back 5 over the long term, I don't think he's the answer there. But at the moment, he's playing well and he's the best out of the 3 right backs we've got there. So yeah, there we go. I think it is time to move on. Let's see what's next. Southampton versus Villa. Aston Villa, another away win on the board against a really lacklustre Southampton side, Shaun.
From what I'm reading, because I've got a few minor contacts down Southampton way, that followed a few journalists down there, and that they're spot on a bit of improvement, and I think it might have come from that. Was it the League Cup game when they knocked out City? Am I right? Yeah. They are noticing a bit of improvement because, funnily enough, going into that League Cup game, the fans were already booing the new manager about the style, the results, but they are turning a slight corner and they're getting harder to beat. So I actually think they were quite disappointed to lose this one, but they lost it. And I'll say the same I've said about Southampton for a couple of years. They're easy to play against. Do you know what I mean? Southampton are a side where they can beat a better side, but if you just give them a bit of a bump and a shove, then they're easy to brush aside. Mm-hmm. Villa, they're very much like an Emery side. Like I think I've read, can't remember the stats, you might have to find it yourself. Something about his first 5 games, the record points compared to runs in tally with another former Villa manager. Can't remember who. Anyway, starts quite good there, but they're just not a pretty side to watch. They're probably never going to be that pretty under Emery in the Premier League. Emery, I know Emery left Villarreal to come to Villa, but it's probably, I'd imagine he had better footballing players at Villarreal than he's got at Villa. Obviously, he wanted to come back to the Premier League, clearly. So he's working with not the most attractive players. Obviously, he's let Ings go for whatever reason. I don't know. If he wants the style to improve, probably needs to buy 3 or 4 more. But they're just going to... They're not on a relegation battle. I don't think anyone's ever put them down there. But even when they win games, it's probably not going to be pretty. They beat us, didn't they? Remember they beat us the other week, and Josh was on, all excited. I think we played well. They didn't play well. Told you then they didn't play well. They didn't play well when they beat Everton. From what I've heard, Southampton were good the other night. You can't not win in games. When we were talking about West Ham a minute ago, you've got to find a way to win ugly a little bit. Totally get that. If fans are talking with their eyes open, I know I'm good mates with a Leeds fan. The delusion is off the scale. You know what I mean? If you're playing ugly, just admit it. If points are more important than style in the day, 9 times out of 10, aren't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're going to grind out wins. They're going to win on. They're not going to play pretty football. They're going to get a job done. That's Emery's way, really. And as mad as it is, because his record. Bear with me with this. I've got to word it right. His record at Arsenal after the same amount of games as Arteta when he was sacked was better than Arteta's. Okay, but he went on a little bad run of about 4 games, and his style didn't fit what Arsenal wanted after Wenger. Do you know what I mean? It just did not fit. So he went. Obviously, it's probably going to work out for him. So Villa would never. I would be amazed if they ever play a beautiful, attractive football. Like I said, the game against Tottenham is a dour game, but real poor. But that's how they'll go on. They will win games through the season. They'll win more games like it. But Southampton, I think they're bottom now, aren't they?
Bottom. Yeah.
Like I said, they're seeing improvement from the team.
Yeah. For sure. I think it is a knockback because they've been looking at this game and going, at least try and pick up a point against a Villa side that are beatable at the end of the day. So they'll be a little bit disappointed there. See, Gareth says Saints look destined to go down with Bournemouth along with Leeds or Everton, I think. Just to finish off on the West Ham comments, Emerson played well. Yeah, I thought it was refreshing to see him there. Not Creswell, in my opinion. When do you think it's time to kick Moyes out? Well, my opinion and what the board's opinion will be is 2 very different things, I think. I don't know. I mean, if we pick up nothing from these 3 games, then we've got to give him that Forest game. And if we lose that, it's got to go. If we can pick up maybe a couple of draws in these 3 games. Newcastle are starting to falter a little bit. We'll come on to them in just a second, but we need to pick up at least a couple of points maybe in those games, then try and get onto that Forest game. We've got to beat them. It's a must win. Next up is Newcastle. They took the trip down to Selhurst Park and they failed to win again. They're on a little bit of a ropey patch out of the FA Cup and not winning all of their games. Sure, the Geordies a little bit unhappy, I think I'm sensing.
Yeah, just going back to West Ham, obviously people are now saying who's going to go down, who's going to do this. People are already condemning everyone. I think when there was around the midweek games last week or the week before, it's how tight the table is. I think West Ham are 1 goal away from being bottom on the night. Do you know what I mean? So it is tight. I wouldn't condemn too many people because there's plenty of swings to come. But yeah, 3 out of 6, I think. Newcastle, obviously you said they lost. They've got knocked out by Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup beginning of the month. What I noticed, I looked at their recent run of results. They're in the last 4 games, they've got 4 clean sheets. However, 3 of them have been 0-0s.
Yeah.
So I'm just stuck. They're hard to score against. I think they've still got the best defence in the league, hard to score against. But when I see that little run, it makes me think teams have worked out how to. If we're not going to win, we'll take a point. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was it Palace on last night? Leeds got a 0-0.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I just look at Leeds got a 0-0 at their place. So
yeah, yeah.
I just it's looking like teams might have just think right. They're potentially sound. If we just sit there as well, it's going to be a stalemate. And
yeah,
I think even last night, I think Nick Pope had to make a worldie save to keep him in it. So I just wonder. I can't fault what they've done. Halfway stage to being third, they've done brilliant. I think they're on 38 points. Is that about right? I can't fault them. But when you look at the results, even Sheffield Wednesday, when they probably
39 points are on.
All right, they no doubt rested a few against Sheffield Wednesday. They've bought well, but 3 0-0s in 4 games, and the other one's a 1-0, tells me they may have to tweak their tactics from just being defensively sound if they want to stay in that top 4, because you can guarantee at least one team outside the top 4 at the moment will finish strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year, we were trying to. I think there was like 6 going for 4 spots in the top 4 last year. West Ham were even on the edge of that. Look, we were still thinking, can they or not? Yeah. So we're probably going down to 7th, even thinking of going to top 4. So a half stay, we say to top 4 is nailed already. I would say it's a bit premature. One team at least will finish strong, and like I said, Newcastle have got to find a way of not having very, very tight games, because all it takes is 3 0-0s in a row. The next game they'll lose 1-0.
Just looking at the table there, so obviously it's Arsenal on 50 points, then Man City on 45, Newcastle on 39, United on 39. There's a big gap down to you boys on 33. Just looking at the stats there, Newcastle, they've lost just 1 game all season, which is the identical stat to what Arsenal have. Lost, they're very, very hard to beat. They're hard to break down, and I think that might be their downfall as well, as they're not scoring as many goals, and all those 0-0s are racking up now, and maybe that might be where they're going wrong. It's interesting. I don't know. Obviously we play them in a few weeks' time, so it's
So you play them in a few weeks. Is that home or away?
It's away at the start of February, so yeah, a couple of weeks.
So David Moyes, you say he's defensive. It's a no-brainer to go there and try and play for a 0-0.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Managers aren't daft. They probably knew that's what a lot of teams would have to go for. But with his last 4 results, they're playing the sea. Do you know what I mean? That's a 1-0 and 3-0. So you go up there, play for a 0-0, you come back, you take the point.
Yeah.
The problem is if they're in a title race, for example, if you get too many draws, then you start drifting out of it, and that will happen with the top 4 if they get too many draws.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you've got tight games where it's a draw or 1 goal either way, at some point your luck's going to go against you. All it takes is a deflected goal, and then you're losing 1-0. So I think they might need to just find a plan B and a plan C to change a game, because like I said, against Palace, I don't necessarily. Palace weren't hanging on, and I know for a fact Nick Pope made a big late save. I can remember turning it on, so they're worth keeping on. I don't think they'll drop like a stone, but like I said, 1 points aren't free, are they? And it does make a big difference if the draws tie up.
I think it's a daunting stat if you look in the last 1, 2, 3 in their last 4 Premier League games, they've scored just 1 goal. So I think that sort of speaks for itself. Let's take some of your comments. Sharky says, if we stay in, Saints go marching down. See what he did there. I'd love to see West Ham sign Ward-Prowse.
On Prowse, they've had, the new manager's actually pushed him forward to like a number 10 role.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
they're getting a bit more out of him.
Yeah, Lawrence, hope you are all well, mate. Terry says too right, Sharky. Yeah, we were interested with him last year, so maybe that might be an avenue we'll look to go down. Lots of you are talking to each other. Wish me good luck. I'm going to the Den, crikey, on the 4th. Millwall versus Sunderland for now. Get your Stone Island out. Anyway, moving on to another 0-0 draw. It's up at your good friends, Shaun. Leeds United 0, Brentford 0. Now, I watched most of this and it wasn't great at all.
Right. I woke up this morning and my lad's game's off, right? I get on Twitter and someone, Harry Winks, remember Harry Winks?
Yeah.
He's been on loan at Sampdoria all season, believe it or not.
Right.
So this morning was his first start of the season. He's been, in the week, he got 20 minutes off the bench because he has been injured that long.
Right.
He's just fit now. So I thought, right, we'll watch that, see how he gets on. And Sampdoria, second from bottom and about 8 points adrift on 9 points. And if you think the bottom of the Premier League looks bad, watch Serie A at the bottom, because that was
that's a Farmers League.
Harry, in all fairness, Harry Winks didn't have a bad game. He was on all the dead balls, all the corners. But the finishing, oh my word. We're talking standards bad, right? Bad. Anyway.
Is this got a relevance to Leeds, this finishing?
It's big, yeah. Anyway, in about 2 minutes ago, Harry Winks flicked on a cross by accident and set up their winner. Anyway, that takes that. Then the next game comes on, it's Leeds, and I started watching it. My lad's game's called off. I got my mate who's a Leeds fan telling me how we're so excited, we're going to win this, we'll win that, we'll do this, we'll do that. I got about 30 minutes in. I said to my lad, I said, watch Leeds. Every time you get the ball around the box, watch the final ball. I said, all this like little tippy-tap. Well, not tippy-tappy. They're quite energetic. If you're a bit of a newcomer to watching football, you might call them exciting, which my mate is, and he does. Right? He they'll sort of dart about, like ants running about. Final ball, goal kick. Final ball, straight to the centre-back's feet. Final ball, goal kick. Final ball out for a throw-in. Brentford did what Brentford do. They went to sat. I think the stat came up on the screen. They've won more games with less than 50% possession than any team in the league.
I didn't think they were great at all. They went for the point and they got it.
They got it. They sat there. They knew that. Even on commentary, they were saying Leeds, all they're trying to do is go through the middle. They didn't change it. They did not change it. And I don't rate the manager at all. He does not. They buy all these players that are all the same. If they're a fast, tricky winger, they buy them, and then they try and cram them all in doing the same job, but they haven't got a playmaker, the one who's going to pick the ball at the thread a nice pass. So they run all erratic, look up, pass it, rubbish, awful. The game itself, because of the lack of quality when it counted from both sides, reminded me very much of a championship game, where you see players are good players, but when they might go down the wing in the championship and they'll cross it in. All they try and hit is the danger area. Do you know what I mean? They try and put it in the right places. In the Premier League, if you want to be a half-decent side, you've got to thread it through the eye of the needle a little bit. You've got to look up. You've got to show a bit more confidence than that. But you said Brentford. I thought Brentford, when Marsh sort of took off one of their holders, I thought they could get it near the end. Their counter-attacks were sort of getting a bit unlucky. The ball didn't get there. But Leeds are just... He's trying to play the same, even commentary, and I think they had Jermaine Beckford, whatever his name is, come on, saying the same. They got players that can play wide, but they're trying to find this ball through the middle. And Brentford had like 5-6 sat back, it's almost like a back 5 or 6. They took off Rodrigo. It's probably going to have more classier players up front, like for Bamford. And they just didn't change it.
Can I sense a bit of disgust in your voice of how Leeds play football, Shaun?
The problem is with Leeds I think Leeds fans are split. If you go searching for all over Twitter with their journalists, I think Phil Hayes there, the Athletic journalist they've got. If you read all his posts, they're very, very split. A lot of them don't like Marsh. His tactics are dumb. Marsh comes out every game. I played really well. We're really happy. I don't think they've won in 7 now. I think six games without a win. It's always with a lot of but their other side of their fan base. A lot of it is we're unlucky. We're playing really well. It's almost like they get sucked in stupidly by what he's saying. But if you watch them, they sign all the wrong players. They've just spent 35 million on. I can't remember his name, from Hoffenheim.
Ginter, Tint, something like
that. Yeah. But if you look at his stats, I've got a few websites where you can go on the stats, like their take on completion, shot goal, like really dig deep into it. And I'm going to tell you what sort of player he is, and you tell me if they need him. He's a very tricky winger with a good skill, whose end product's not very good, and he doesn't score many. Right? That's sort of like
something they've already got there, isn't it?
They've got about 4 of them already. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So they just spent 35 million on him. They've already got. Yeah. I can't work them out. This Aronson, the American they've got, his form's fallen off a cliff. Fans, first 5 games, everyone was raving about him, one of the best players in the league. Now they're calling for him to be dropped. But the problem is, they play him in the 10 role. He's not a number 10. He's another player who should be slightly out wide, playing where Gononto, Somerville, Incensio, Somerville, and if new player, they're all the same player. And then they got Bamford, who could play up. Obviously, I've never been his biggest fan, but he did get a couple of goals, good load of goals the other season. They put Rodrigo up front, his goal record's better, but he can play in a 10. So then instead of dropping Rodrigo into a 10 where they need a player, he puts Bamford on and takes Rodrigo off. So then there's still no one with a bit of class on the ball to feed the striker. I don't rate the manager, and the fans, they might get out of it. I think that I still put them as the bottom 6 club. I think if I was going to be honest, I'd probably say it's probably between West Ham, Leeds, and Everton to take the final spot.
Yeah,
and that. Like I said to my mate, typical of typical juvenile fans, when you start slating the club, they like to deflect to your club. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to talk about Tottenham, I'll talk about them all day. If you want to talk about West Ham, I won't deflect it off and criticise your club if you slack off Tottenham. But that's what they do. And I think they're in denial a bit. I don't rate the manager. It's just where he said, I asked him a genuine question. Would you rather go down playing exciting football, as he calls it, even though there's no end product, or stay up playing negative, dull, boring football? I did give West Ham as an example, and he couldn't. I genuinely tell you now, he could not answer that question. He diverted that question, so that tells you what that fan base are a little bit like.
There we go. Let's leave your Leeds rant now, because I tell you, I had a lot of steam to let off there, and you let it off in about 5 minutes. There we go. Very, very good. Right then, next up, Haaland scores another hat trick. We're halfway through the season. He's got 25 goals in the Premier League already. It's scary. They beat Wolves at home. Shaun,
how many people have you got listening, Jake, at the moment?
14.
14, right. I'm going to do about 2 minutes on this game, but I'm going to ask a question for someone to give me the answer before the 2 minutes.
Okay.
What was the last season where Man City didn't win a major cup? And I don't mean the Charity Shield. What was the last season?
Kent will know.
So let's see when that is. Anyway, I don't. To be honest, I was too busy laughing at Leeds United's final balls to pay too much attention to this. But obviously, I've seen the goals go in. I know no one's mentioned Wolves about going down, but I do think they'll be okay. I think didn't you play them in the week and you said they'd be okay? Or
last week they'll be all right.
Yeah, you went, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. But every single season, as long as Man City have had this money, we sort of we become accustomed to every now and again you get that standard win where probably the team goes there, gets their tactics wrong, and they just get rolled over. What I will say about Man City, I think Pep said it last week when they lost to United, he admits they're miles off it. He said they're not close to the standard they expect. They're not close to the standard the last couple of seasons. They've got 2 new strikers they're trying to integrate where their style's got to change a lot. I've got a strange theory on Man City and Haaland, which I'll share if someone's got the answers. Anyone got that yet or not?
Nobody's put a year in, so just repeat it.
My theory is Haaland could score 35 to 40 goals this season.
I don't think they're a very good team with him. people have said that because they've and both Liverpool and City have done this. They brought in these strikers, and I think they've sort of changed their style of play to fit these strikers. And yes, he's scoring goals, but I think it's affected their whole play.
Well, thing is Haaland, he's by far the best centre forward in the world.
Yeah.
Inside the box or inside the pen, like the 12-yard line sort of thing. When their ball's not going to him, all you see on Twitter and everywhere is people questioning how many touches he's had in a half. And that hasn't stopped since the first game of the season. I think it was 8 against United the other day in one half. He made
about 7 against Bournemouth, didn't he? And that was the big one.
Yeah. If I said, I'm going to just chuck in a random thing in that, he's the best centre forward in the world by a mile inside the box, I think, finishing in deadly. His all-round game, like all-round football game, link up, ability to turn a play, he's quick as well, I know. All-round game, he might, it's a big statement, he might not even be in the top 30 or 40. Do you know what I mean? Because his all-round game is nothing special. He's just absolutely lethal. He's about 6'4". 90% of his goals this season probably be scored inside 8 yards. Like he headed one against, just a recent example, he headed one in from about 2 yards out against Tottenham last week. I think one was a tap in about 8 yards out today. A header was about 6 yards out, and one was a penalty. All right. So I'm not knocking it. A goal scorer is a goal scorer. I'm talking more as a team, Man City. And the reason I said about Aston with Aston, they won and he didn't win anything major. I think we must have gone about 8 or 9 years. I'm just having a punt at that.
Yeah.
He could smash all records, like obliterate them. And it could be the worst season Man City have had in a very, very long time.
It's interesting because some people will say, well, all he's there to do really is score goals. But I do think their sort of play has been sort of damaged by him coming in, but then he's scoring the goals. So it's just trying to weigh out which one they prefer more. But your final thought on it?
They might come good next. They might win a few this year. I know they're out the League Cup already. They've got Arsenal in the FA Cup. At the moment, they don't look good enough to win the Champions League. But next year, it might all click. I think Alvarez, the one from Argentina, might, if they get him in the team a little bit more. But I don't know. It can't all be about Haaland. If Haaland scores because don't forget, they won the title a year or two ago. The year Aguero left, and they had Jesus still, but they still didn't play Jesus.
Yeah,
Jesus was. Jesus to play. He was still the sub, so he won the league playing this false number 9. 1 week it'd be Sterling, De Bruyne would have a game up front, Bernardo Silva. That's the Pep's City we're accustomed to, not playing a 6'4" lethal 18-yard box finisher. So it's strange. Like you can't knock the man, but if they win nothing major, that's nuts.
yeah, and it'll make them have a hard think of the way they want to play. The last game, and probably the most important game of the weekend. It is Arsenal 3, Manchester United 2. Arsenal do win. A last-minute goal from Eddie Nketiah erupts North London as all the United fans travel across the tube empty-handed. Shaun?
Yeah, well, Man United's title push lasted 7 days, didn't it? Because I got a good mate. They beat Man. Was it the early game last Sunday? Was it early game Sunday last week?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and the North London derby followed it.
Yeah,
he was messaging me. Oh yeah, we're this, we're that. You'll get something today. I said we won't. Then if we win in midweek and then they drew and then if we beat Arsenal, we'll be like 2. They did all this magical maths that like they're up there doing this. I face people on Facebook. Man United are back. Blah blah blah. 7 days in football. Do you know what I mean? All we can say about Arsenal is what we've been saying for weeks. I don't think they're going to chuck it away. They don't look like it. Long way to go, I know. As you can tell from the game previous, I don't really see Man City. Just don't see them putting that run together this time. I know we should learn from it because they've come from massive deficits in the past.
Yeah.
I even fancy they got to play each other twice still, and I'll be honest. But how Arsenal are playing, I fancy them to beat City at least once.
Yeah, so do I.
I do wonder with the title race, and sort of Pep sort of hinted at. I don't know if it was a bit of mind games. At some point, will he have one eye on the Champions League? And all it takes is when you've got 2 games in a week, then he starts leaving Haaland out. Do you know what I mean? You might, I don't know, you might imagine you're away to Chelsea and you can't catch Arsenal, but you've got Real Madrid in the semi-final of the Champions League. You're going to leave out Haaland. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah, it's just strange. I think they'll I think Arsenal win it. I think they'll win it quite comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's obviously, the obvious thing to say is it's down to these 2 games. There's 5 points in it, with a game in hand currently for Arsenal. So there is still a lot to play for there, and there's still those 2 games, between the sides, obviously, because one was postponed. So yeah, there's two massive games there that will define the title race. But yeah, I agree. I can't see City beating them twice, to be honest with you. But we'd have to wait and see on that sense. Yeah, of course, Antonio over Alvarez, definitely. Yeah, well done, Dave. Yeah, Antonio over Alvarez every day. Corey says it was Ten Hag's fault. Arsenal won when he left Ericsson on. Tottenham reject, who was terrible again. Take him back, Shaun.
Well, I know United fans have been well impressed with him, so I think they're quite happy with him.
Yeah. I think he's been mixing between sort of 2 roles, hasn't he? Because he had a charge up at one point in the second half, and the commentators were like, he's been sitting relatively deep.
Well, they obviously missed Casemiro that had played them in McTominay instead, didn't they? So that was a big blow. So Casemiro's a far more intelligent player. Ericsson, he's started every single game, I think, more or less in the league. So it was a good game. It was a bit of an old throwback game, wasn't it? Like to the early 2000s or something, when these were 2 of the biggest teams in the land going at each other a little bit. But yeah, Arsenal got it. Yeah, and that's all you could say. I think they just got that bit of determination about them. You can tell if they go 1 down, you expect them to come back this time. Yeah. A few years back, they might take the lead 2-1 and all this, and you think, they might bottle it at the end. When you look, I don't know what their fixture list has got coming up, but I can't see many teams that are going to take much off them. The likes of the Chelseas and the Liverpools will have to have one of their really good days. Obviously, Tottenham, Lloris literally gift wrapped any chance they had a little bit last week. They played both the North London derbies now. They've won both of them, so that's that done. Normally a game where they lose every season was at the Tottenham Stadium. The home team would always do very good in the North London derby. Obviously, for whatever reasons, Tottenham didn't get anything last week. So, other than the 2 Man City games, you do need a little bit of dip in form, and I'm not convinced it's going to happen. The other teams might hope. Obviously, they're in the Europa League as well. So, I don't know. I'm clutching now. I know there's a long, long way to go, but I'll be surprised if they don't win it. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I sort of agree with the fact that they got that determination to go forward and definitely win it. Right then, before we carry on to tomorrow night, I'll be joined by the Football London's West Ham writer John T. Coleman to talk all things Moyes and his future, transfers, and everything West Ham. So we'll be tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for an interview with John T. Coleman. Right then, so Shaun, can the Italian Big Sam turn it round against Fulham tomorrow night?
I could do an hour show on Tottenham, mate. You could ask me every
60
question.
seconds and a prediction.
I think Fulham will win. I've been a big advocate of Fulham since before the season. I said they'd be good and Mitrovic would be on fire. But then again, Tottenham did play well against them. One of the best games they've had. I rate Fulham. I think there's a few players coming back from injuries to Tottenham, but I'll be better. I think we might lose 2-1, and it's going to sound mad. Tottenham fans are getting to the stage with the owner where they almost want it to get worse. Does that make sense? Mm. You get to that stage where it turns nasty. They're on that brink now. Like we're haggling over 5 million to loan a player at the moment, and we're the 5th richest club the 9th richest club in the world, and we're haggling over a 5 million loan fee.
Well, I've seen all this stuff about your director bloke, and I've seen Conte ain't going to sign a new contract. It's all going to pot down the lane.
There's nothing new to say about Conte. Di Marzio, whatever his name is, from Italy. That was his opinion. He wrote it as if he knew it. He backtracked like you couldn't believe. But I would not surprise you if the club, they just go apart mutually. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's heading that way. I don't think anyone's that fussed how it goes. Really, there a lot of Tottenham fans at the point where they don't mind how it goes. Do you know what I mean? They're not in danger of having a shocking season. It's sort of just got Champions League last 16 coming up in a few weeks. Be nice to have a little bit of form before that. But yeah, I'm a fan that always wants to win games. But I can understand where people are coming from. Like we had Man City last week. Some of the fan base were on the loose so they could catch Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird one. It's a weird time at the moment because we're not spending the money to try and keep up.
Yeah,
we haven't spent nowhere near as much as them in the last few recent years in net spend anyway. But you see Chelsea rivals chucking money about. You see Arsenal top of the league and still spending big money. Do you know what I mean? I know United fans had a moan about this the other day because that 1 week United were in the title race. Arsenal went inside Trossard. He's not a bad player. I didn't interest me at Tottenham, to be honest, in getting him because he's the wrong type of player. But then United went and got Weghorst on loan. Do you know what I mean? It's frustrating when Tottenham have been on the brink of a title push a few times, then gone and signed rubbish. I've been there before. You know what I mean? I've been there in January. We almost got 2 players out of retirement to play. So,
final question is Lloris, yay or nay?
I would have dropped them after the Arsenal game. Do you know what? I know this is dragging on with Tottenham, but on my Facebook memories from exactly a year ago, yesterday or today, I can't remember what it was, I put a post on clapping my hands because he dragged his heels a bit. Lloris signing a new deal. Okay. So this time last year, he was just coming to the end of outstanding form. At 35, he looked like he was when he was 26. He was really good. Something's happened, whether it's age, his confidence has gone. He's chucking them in. He's never been brilliant with his feet, but he's done 4 clear howlers for goals, and that's not taking into account where he's been beat at his near post. His kick's gone out for a throw and they've scored. That is just purely direct howlers for him. That's own goals, hacking down a player for a... Do you know what I mean? The worrying thing for me is, one, he's the captain. So it's hard to drop a captain unless you fall on your...
That's a big pig.
Yeah, it's hard to drop a captain unless you fall on your sword, like knock on the manager's door. The other day, he come out and defended 2 of the goals he let in, one against Arsenal, one against Man City, claiming deflections. That worried me. Because I'm thinking, I don't care, mate. Like that goal would come off his shoulder and went in. He blamed the little deflection. That's not good enough for me. He's got 1 year left on his deal. We need to be looking at a keeper. I know one of the names we're linked to is this Brentford keeper, Raya. Is it?
Raya.
If it's me, we're too tight. I'd go and buy one in January, but I would have played Forster by now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There we go. So
it's not easy.
Final thing, prediction. Oh yeah, you said it, didn't you? 2-1 Fulham.
I might be going a bit negative with that. I probably got my negative head on. But I rate Fulham. I think that'd be a hard night. But we have got don't want to go on, but no, it's time to leave Son out as well. He's been terrible for 6 months. Like really, really bad for 6 months. Like
well, I might fit a time in my schedule to watch this tomorrow night then, because this could get interesting. We love the Fulham.
I'd hope he gives Richarlison a start. That's what I think. But
so there we go. Right, let's take your predictions. 2-2, 2-1 to Spurs, 0-0, another snore rest. Fulham 3, Tottenham 1. Lloris needs to retire. Shaun, he's costing you too many points. Mandy says Tuchel will be Spud's next manager next season. Don't unleash, Shaun. Don't unleash, because we all know you're getting Poch back. Weghorst is awful. Oh my god, what were United thinking? Yeah, it is a bit weird, I can't lie. Weghorst living off those 2 goals against Argentina that cost me about 15 quid. It cost as well, if
isn't
you know,
is he another player that Ten Hag has worked before? Am I right in thinking that?
Oh, I don't know. Might have done.
I'm sure he knows him or something. I think that's behind it, but baffling to me, really.
Yeah, there we go. Right, we will leave it there. An entertaining week. Plenty has happened. Thank you very much, everybody. Shaun, thank you very much indeed.
No worries, mate. You take it easy.
Very, very good. Yeah, thank you, everybody, in the chat for watching. We'll catch you tomorrow night for an interview with Football London's West Ham writer, John T. Coleman. Join me then. Plenty of content throughout the week. Craig Dawson's just put out a statement for West Ham fans, so go and read that on social media if you'd like. Yeah, Shaun, I want you to go and read that for your Sunday night homework. Thank you very much indeed.
See you later.
Go on your irons, and I'll catch you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.